I'm in my car waiting to pick up my kid, and I just got a text alert that Donald Trump has experienced a humiliating defeat. It's actually two humiliating defeats at once. The charges against both former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James have been dropped. Hang on, let me put my knitting down so I can read you what it says. Monday, November 24th, 2025, a federal judge has dismissed the criminal cases against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, concluding that the prosecutor who brought those charges at President Donald Trump's urging was illegally appointed by the Justice Department. The two rulings from U.S. District Judge Cameron McGowan Curry amount to a stunning rebuke of the Trump regime's efforts to target Trump political opponents, as well as its legal maneuvering to hastily install a loyalist prosecutor willing to file the cases. The orders make Lindsay Halligan the latest Trump regime prosecutor to be disqualified because of the manner in which they were appointed. This came about because last Thursday, attorneys for both James Comey and Letitia James had asked the judge to dismiss the charges, saying that Lindsay Halligan, the prosecutor, had been illegally installed in the role. According to the Associated Press, Halligan was installed at the job at Trump's urging by his super loyalist Attorney General Pam Bondi, who will do anything for him, including not release the Epstein files. Anyway, back in September, at Trump's urging, Pam Bondi installed Halligan as prosecutor just days before Comey was indicted. At the time, attorneys on Comey's case and attorneys on the internet were saying, this is not legal. This is both an attempt to get around constitutional and statutory rules. This was some hinky shit, as I like to say. This was done on purpose to get this indictment that otherwise would never have come about. It absolutely was malicious prosecution against Trump's political opponents. This absolutely is retribution for past investigations and charges against him. I mean, we understand that this was all about Donald Trump trying to get revenge against officials who tried to hold him accountable for the crimes that he committed. This is all about a petty, fragile narcissist and his perceived narcissistic injury, and how he wanted to make Comey and Letitia James pay for trying to uphold the law. How he wanted not only to make them suffer, not only to use the Department of Justice to weaponize it for his petty, illegal revenge, but also this is what would-be autocrats do. They seek to manipulate the law and the justice system to enact revenge against their political opponents, against anyone who tries to hold them accountable. This was about sending a message to anybody that if you try and stand up against the Trump regime, I will bring the Justice Department against you, because it is no longer a functional Justice Department. What it is Donald Trump's personal lawyers who he is weaponizing at the taxpayers' expense to try to install himself as an autocratic ruler and to destroy the rule of law. This is about him trying to punish political opponents so that everybody is afraid to speak up. All that would-be tyrants have is threats, intimidation, bullying, and violence. All they know how to do is bully. All they know how to do is to try and act revenge because they feel so distressed because they cannot handle being held accountable. They cannot handle criticism. They cannot handle justice. They cannot handle being told no. They cannot handle being disliked or disapproved of. And so they will lash out and try and get revenge. Unfortunately, the fragile narcissist lashing out here has the entire Justice Department staffed with loyalists who are willing to do whatever he wants, who are willing to violate any law for him. I will never understand the cult of MAGA and how Donald Trump commands that kind of loyalty. But that's what's happening. Halligan was installed because she would do whatever Trump wanted, just like Pam Bondi. There is no bridge too far. There is no ask too big. There is no law they will not break. Remember, Donald Trump only wants loyalists. If you won't do his bidding, if you are not willing to commit crimes and go to prison in the post-Trump era for him, he doesn't want you. So Halligan was brought in to do this only after the previous prosecutor who had been assigned to both of these cases had not brought charges, so they forced him out. The interim U.S. attorney in that position before Halligan, named Eric Siebert, resigned because he wouldn't bring charges, because there were no cases. He knew that it was malicious prosecution, and he chose to resign rather than commit crimes for Donald Trump. So then Pam Bondi brought in Lindsay Halligan, who was a White House aide and had no prior prosecutorial experience. I believe she's never tried a case. This appointment, according to the AP, happened because Donald Trump barfed up all over Truth Social this complaint that apparently was supposed to be a private message to Pam Bondi. But he posted it publicly on Truth Social, basically demanding these prosecutions. He said, "Justice must be served now." I'm quoting from the AP here. U.S. attorneys, who are top federal prosecutors who oversee regional Justice Department outposts across the country, are typically nominated by the president and then confirmed by the Senate. Donald Trump has gotten around this Senate confirmation multiple times, both in this term and in his previous term, by appointing interim folks that can only serve for 120 days in all kinds of capacities, not just U.S. attorneys. Now, the Attorney General here, according to the AP, does have the authority to name an interim U.S. attorney for 120 days, but lawyers for Comey and James both argued that once that period had expired, the law gives federal judges the exclusive say in who gets to fill that vacancy. And it sure wasn't fucking Lindsay Halligan. One of Comey's attorneys, Ephraim McDowell, said Ms. Halligan was the sole prosecutor in the grand jury room, and when the sole prosecutor lacks the authority, it's not going to be a harmless error. Right, so basically, Halligan had been incorrectly appointed, and as Comey's attorney went on to say, if the judge had ruled with the government in this case, it would basically deprive the Senate of their right to confirm Trump nominees. McDowell argued that dismissal of the indictments must be permanent, with no opportunity to bring the cases again in order to avoid rewarding the government for a violation. I'm not an attorney, but I do understand Donald Trump is going to lash out as a result of not getting his way in both of these cases. I also understand this is really, really important. This ruling is really important. Because Trump wanted everybody to believe that he could put whoever he wanted in prison. He wanted anybody who stands up against his illegal actions to think twice, to be afraid of being imprisoned for the rest of their lives. This is shit that petty tyrants do. This is shit that Vladimir Putin does. This is shit that happens in an autocratic regime where political opponents who are not doing anything wrong can still be imprisoned. Donald Trump was trying to make it seem like he could do whatever he wanted. No matter who you are, he could put you in prison for years and years and years because you dared stand up against him. And what happened today was that the judge said, no, you can't. You can't do that. You are trying to, but we're not going to let you. It doesn't mean that he's going to stop trying to do that. He will continue to try and push those levers. He will continue to try and corrupt the justice system. And Pam Bondi will continue to lick his boots and do whatever Daddy Donald wants. It's crucial that we understand any victory that we have is not going to result in Donald Trump just completely giving up. They're going to keep trying to push and push and push. And it requires all of us to push back and hold the line for the rule of law. It requires all of us to continue to organize, because what we're going to see is more escalation of his behavior as he is shut down here and here and here and all over the place. He's not getting his way. He's going to have a temper tantrum. He's going to crash out. He's going to flop all over the floor, scream and pound his tiny little fists. He's going to try and be more extreme, how brutal, how violent, how threatening can he be? Where is the line where we all back down? That's what he's looking for. He's looking for where is the place that I can push them so that they give up and they let me roll all over them. And there is no place. There is no point at which we are laying down for fascism. There is no point at which we are giving up our Constitution, at which we are giving up our rights. So he will continue to try and escalate. It is more important than ever that we all hold the line, that we all push back, that we all exercise our rights and defend them, that we do not let him chill dissent, that we do not let him bully us, scare us into giving up our rights. He tried to make everybody think that if you dare try to hold him accountable, he can put you in prison for however long he wants, and that failed spectacularly today. He'll be real pissy about it as a result. We can enjoy this victory. We can celebrate this victory. And then understand that he's going to try again. He's going to try again, and it's going to be more brutal and more severe. And that cannot change our behavior. It cannot change our resolve. We go ahead and let him have his narcissistic crash out. We go ahead and let him experience that extinction burst. This is a huge win. We should absolutely be celebrating it. And then we should understand what comes next, which is that we continue to organize. We continue to exercise our rights and uphold the rule of law. And there are no conditions under which we surrender our democracy. He tried malicious prosecution and he failed spectacularly.